Good day, Patimanians. This is EQZ Bus Patrol, serving you the latest news update across the world. Asia's longest-running land reform program remains a total failure as claimed by the land rights defenders in the Philippines. According to Ms. Hermitaño, the Deputy Sec General of the Peasant Alliance of the Philippines, the program failed because it needed to fulfill its mandate to distribute land to the farmers equally. Many farmers are still fighting to have their own land. Land reform has long been a controversial issue in the Philippines back then, where an everlasting legacy of Spanish colonial rule was the center of ownership among a wealthy few. Land reform comprises the takeover of land by the state from big landlords with compensation and transfer to small farmers or landless workers. It aims to change the agrarian structure to bring equity and increase productivity. The system includes the man's relationship with his land and other tenant and landlord. For us to know more about the counter issues and happenings after the passing of comprehensive land agrarian reform in the Philippines over 3 decades ago, let's hear therefore from Kyle GOINGCO. Kyle?
Yes, thank you, ALYANA. The following issues after the implementation of the Agrarian Reform Program are: first, it is said to be that the beneficiaries are only entitled to a 1.2 hectare piece of land and that land given to farmers is not considered free. Second, land has yet to be given to poor farmers who have tilled the land for generations. Third, large corporations take control of the bulk of farmland for fruit plantations, including coconuts, bananas, and pineapples. Fourth, many farmers, including activists, are getting killed and arrested for protest because of the failed promise of the government to distribute their land equally. Lastly, Africa described the government's agrarian reform as expensive and cumbersome since it did not address structural problems and rural inequality.
Kyle, can you go along and continue to give us some report about the history of land reform in the Philippines during the pre-Spanish era?
Yes, ALYANA. Before the entrance of Spaniards to the Philippines, the Filipino social system was said to be feudal. Like the feudalistic system in medieval Europe, a warrior class existed bounded by loyalty to a warlord. This class lived on the labor of the serfs and slaves, but in exchange, this warrior class protected them and exercised a ready through rough kind of justice. The freeborn did not pay tributes or taxes to the datu, but were bound to follow him to war. The serfs served their master or lord, who may be a datu or someone else who is a maharlika, and tilled his land. The slaves served the lord or master in both of his house and farm. They were allowed some share of the harvest, but they were their master's property. Thus, they could be sold, particularly those captured in wars or born or reared as farm hands.
Lastly, Kyle, before we go on to the following updates, can you possibly share what happened to the state of land reform in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period?
Yes, again, ALYANA. During the Spanish colonial period, lands were divided and granted to encourage Spanish settlers or reward soldiers who served the crown. These were called encomiendas. The conditions of this grant state that the encomendero must defend his encomienda from external attack and maintain peace and order within and support the missionaries. The encomienda system was established at the time and it was for the benefit of the natives than of the encomenderos. Thus, the latter could not be called lords because they were considered as protectors, advocates, and tutors of the natives. The system, however, degenerated into abuse of power by the encomenderos. The tributes they were authorized to collect soon became land rents, and the people living within the boundaries of encomienda became tenants.
Kyle, can you identify the 4 classes of estate proprietors in the Philippines during the Spanish period?
Alright then, ALYANA. First, the religious orders Dominican and Augustinian. Second, the Spanish Peninsular. Third, the Criollos and the Mestizos. And lastly, the native principals.
Thank you very much for bringing us an informative report about the history of land reform in the Philippines, Kyle. Now, let us take a break as EQZ Bus News will be aired again after the commercial. Over the last decades, the farmers in the Philippines have continually asked for secure land rights and urged lawmakers and officials to pursue agrarian reforms. Protesters have often been considered criminals, and their demands and cries have been answered with violence. As farmers marched and demanded winning land reforms, security forces killed many protesters. Relations between tenants and landlords have also been strained, and cases of landlords using coercive power to evict tenants with the help of local public authorities have been reported, including the harassment, confinement, and killing of many farmers asserting their land rights.
Kahirapan, huwakasan, reformang agraryo, ipatupad. Save Agrarian Reform Alliance.
Land to the farmers, now!
Lupa para sa mga magsasaka, bigas, hindi bala.
Simple lamang ang aming adhikain. Yung pagkakaroon sana ng maayos na reforma sa lupa. At huwag kalimutan ng gobyerno ang libo-libo magsasaka.
Good day, Patimanians. I am Prince GALURA.
And I am Frances Lynn BALUBAL.
And for today's news, we will discuss a series of events happened during the First Philippine Republic, Third, Fourth, and Fifth Republic, together with the American and Commonwealth periods. To begin with, let me call on my partner, Frances.
Yes, thank you, Prince. On January of 1899, after the establishment of the First Republic of the Philippines, the government of President Emilio Aguinaldo declared its intention to confiscate large estates, especially the so-called friar lands. The declaration was contained in the Malolos Constitution. All the lands, buildings, and other properties belonging to the religious corporation in these islands shall be understood to have been restored to the Filipino estate. Religious orders owned or held thousands of hectares of the best land in archipelago. The friars had held these lands for centuries. The economic effect of these holdings was terrible because of the prohibitive rents demanded of them. The religious orders would not sell these lands of their own, and thus the Filipino agriculturists who desired to utilize them were stopped from buying or renting. The government was also at loss since no taxes were paid on the church lands. And this is where I end my discussion. Now let's hear from Prince to discuss what happened during the American period.
Thank you, Frances. At the start of the American era, land disputes also began and agrarian troubles worsened. 400,000 native farmers were without titles because of the defective land system rooted in Spanish institutions and farmers' ignorance of various laws. The Americans introduced the torrent system of land registrations to remedy the problem, whereby government purchase titles were granted only after the completion of a survey and land ownership had been proven in court. This, however, did not solve the problem completely. As with the Spanish system, the majority of farmers did not avail of the government's offers. Either they were not aware of the law, or if they did, they could not pay the survey costs and other fees required in applying for a torrents title.
Prince, during the American era, several laws were passed to regulate and improve land tenure. Can you state what those are?
Yes, Frances. First is the Philippine Bill of 1902. It imposed specific conditions on the disposition of public lands. Second is the Land Registration Act of 1902 or Act number 496. This is provided for comprehensive registrations of land titles under the torrent system. Third is the Rice Share Tenancy Act of 1933 or Act number 4054. Regulated relationships between landowners and tenants of rice lands. And last is the Tenancy Act of 1933 or Act number 4113. Regulated relationships between landowners and tenants of sugarcane fields.
Thank you, Prince. Now, for the next scope of our discussion, we have reporter Joshua to discuss the happening during the administration of Manuel L. Quezon in the Commonwealth period. Joshua?
Thank you, Prince and Frances. This is me, Joshua, live on air during Quezon's administration. He improved and strengthened existing laws and land tenure by giving freedom to landowners and tenants to enter into tenancy contracts, not contrary to regulations, moral, and public policy. Another law was also passed under Quezon's administration. It is the Republic Act number 4054, or the Rise of Shared Tenancy Act, provided a 50-50 sharing arrangement between landowners and tenants.
Thank you, Josh. Now let's move to your next report about the accomplishment in land and agrarian reform of the administrations under the Third Republic.
Well, Francis, during the administration of Manuel Rojas in the Third Republic, the Republic Act number 34 amends RA 4054 was passed. It is established a 70-30 sharing arrangement between tenant and landlord. Next, under the Magsaysay administration, the following were also accomplished. The Republic Act number 1400 Land Reform Act provided a acquisition of large tenanted rice and corn lands over 200 hectares if owned by individuals, 600 hectares if owned by corporation. Another is the Republic Act number 1199 Agriculture Tenancy Act provided security of tenure for tenants. It also granted tenants the choice of shifting from shared tenancy to leasehold. The Republic Act number 3844, the Agricultural Land Reform Code, was enacted under the Macapagal administration. It abolished shared tenancy, institutionalized leasehold, and vested rights of preemption and redemption for tenant farmers, provided for the administration machinery for implementation, institutionalized a judicial system of agrarian cases, incorporated extensions, marketing, and supervised credit system of service to farmer beneficiaries. That's all of my report, Francis and Prince. Back to you guys.
Thanks for your very detailed report, Josh. What can you say about it, Prince?
Yes, Francis, you're correct. It was a very informative report that we've heard since it details the following enactment of laws under each administration. Moving on to this, to discuss the 4th and 5th Republic, I would like to hear it from reporter Carl. Carl, are you there?
Yes, Prince speaking. Under the Marcos administration in the Fourth Republic, the following was accomplished. First is the Republic Act number 6389, which instituted the Code of Agrarian Reform and created the Department of Agrarian Reform. Second is Presidential Decree number 2. It will place the whole country under the Land Reform Program. And lastly is the Presidential Decree number 27, which restricted land reform scope to tenanted rice and corn lands. The beneficiaries of this PD 27 are bona fide tenant farmers of private agriculture lands devoted to rice and corn who benefit from an economic farm fixed at 3 hectares of irrigated lands and a maximum of 5 hectares for non-irrigated. Moving on to the 5th Republic under Ms. Corazon Aquino's administration, the following achievements in agrarian reform were attained. 1987 Constitution, Article 2, Section 21, the state shall promote comprehensive rural development and agrarian reform. Proclamation number 131, institutionalized the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, or CARP, and Agrarian Reform Fund, or ARF. It covers all agricultural lands regardless of tenurial arrangement and commodity produced, all public and private agricultural lands, and other public domain lands suitable for agricultures. Executive Order number 129A reorganized, streamlined, and expanded the power and operation of DAR. Executive Order number 228, which declared full ownership to qualified farmer beneficiaries covered by Presidential Decree number 27. It also provided for the manner of payment by the farmer beneficiary and the mode of compensation to the landowners. Executive Order number 229 provided mechanism for the implementation of CARP such as administrative procedures and mechanism for land registration, private land acquisition, and mode of compensation to the landowners. Republic Act number 6657, the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. It is an act instituting a comprehensive agrarian reform program to promote social justice, industrialization, providing the mechanism for its implementation and for other purposes. That's all for my report, Prince and Frances. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Joshua and Carl, for delivering us the latest report.
Fatimanians, that concludes our news today. Once again, I am Frances Lynn Balubal, and we are the EQZ Bus Patrol, delivering you the latest news update across the world.